What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Maine Gainz podcast. I am your host, Jenny LaFerrier, and with me is very special guest, Dom Solis. Did I say that right?
It's Solis or Solis.
Oh,
So yeah.
so close.
It's a weird last name.
I have a weird last name as well, so I
I was
try.
gonna ask you about that too. Yeah.
Um, for those of you who don't know Dom, he wrestles at the University of Maryland, correct?
hmm
Yeah, so what grade are you there?
I am a rising senior now because I just finished my junior year.
Nice, very exciting.
Yeah.
So for all you listening, Dom's gonna, I don't know, we're just gonna chat about his life, right? How he got into wrestling, how he managed to wrestle at the D1 level, and we're just hear all about it. So Dom, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Jenny, so much for having me. I'm super excited for this. Um, Super excited to be able to tell my story, and I haven't had the easiest road to going to the University of Maryland, which I would get into, but I basically got into wrestling when I was 5 years old. Funny story, I was about to go to kindergarten, and I was like the preschool summer or whatever at like this it's called a place called Honey Bear. And one of my best friends at the time, he was telling his mom, he was like, "Hey, I'm about to start wrestling." And my parents were talking, and then they're like, "Dom, you want to try it?" I was like, "Sure, I'll try it with him." The first day he quit, and I was just like, "I love this. I am a little energetic kid. Like I'm gonna keep going at this." 2 weeks later, my older brother he joins, so we instantly became like this like wrestling family. And so I we both stuck with it, and he was 9 at the time, and I was 5. He stuck with it our entire lives. He ended up wrestling at UMBC, which is like club, and then I eventually got to the point where I got to wrestle Division 1, University of Maryland. And recently, my little brother, he just started wrestling. He's 12. It took him a little bit more time, but he's doing it now. But that's how I first kind of started to get into it. But going into Maryland, it was so I was pretty good. Like at a state level, I was pretty good. I was going into my senior year of high school. I was a two-time state champ. I was an All-American at the national preps, which is like all prep schools for like private schools, because I ended up going to a private school for wrestling. But I didn't do anything like crazy on like a national level. Like there was big tournaments that I wouldn't place at. There's something called the blood round, where like you if you win the blood round, you place top 8 and you're technically all American at that tournament. And all these tournaments, I would always lose in the blood round. So I would get so close. And once you get past the blood round, then college coaches are looking at you like, oh, okay, these guys placed here, they placed here. But I was always losing like right before. And so going into my senior year, I was a two-time state champ, going for my third my senior year, and I placed at one national tournament. And there's a lot of national tournaments for wrestling. So like I lost in multiple blood rounds years before. And I was going on a visit at University of Maryland, my first official visit. I'm like super excited. I'm like, wow, I might actually get my first Division 1 offer. This is gonna be great. I did the whole visit. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. It's 20 minutes from my house, and I'm a big family guy. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And we're all in the wrestling room playing spike ball, and each person that is on a visit is like individually going upstairs and having their one-on-one meeting with the coach. And it's my turn. I'm like literally like so nervous but so excited. I'm like, oh, I might get my first offer. And he basically told me that they have a spot on me for the team, but I have to walk on, and they have no money for me. Which at the time I had two teammates that both had offers from Maryland. That one of them I beat up in the room, and the other, like, I thought I was better than. So it was just I love the guys, but like in my head, I'm like, wow, like I don't know, you have nothing for me. Like it was like a 2 minute conversation. It was like I was like heartbroken, and I remember leaving that visit, going home to my coach, and I'm like, dude, like what the heck? This is like why I should be getting offers. Like I'm a two-time state champ. Like I'm this big dog. And it's like, well, honestly, you haven't really done anything on a national level. You placed at national preps once. And I mean, besides that, you losing the blood round. So I was like, dang. And I'm a big money guy. Before I get the rest into the story, I'm a big money guy. I'm an econ major. So he would always talk about like you gotta go make that money. And so when you're out there, you gotta earn your money. It's like you're earning a scholarship. You gotta go make that money. And so that season comes up. There was literally like a month later, we hop into wrestling season, and first tournament of the year, I get like second, and I lost to this like top 20 kid. But before every match, my coach would tell me, "Go make that money. Go make that money." And that tournament wasn't like a big national tournament; it was just like a local tournament. But there was like some decent guys at each weight. The following weekend was this tournament called Ironman, and that's technically like arguably one of the toughest high school tournaments in the country, besides like two others. It's like it changes. And I go into that weekend. I'm like, if I'm gonna get an offer, I need to do good this weekend. So before every match, my coach would tell me, go make that money. Go make that money. And first round, I end up having the number one seed. And I lost like a really close match. I lost by like 2 points. And I was like, dang, like losing first round at a tournament, you have to battle your way back to try to get third. It's like that's tough. And I ended up beating my next guy, beating the next guy, beating the next guy, and I finally get the blood round. I finally win the blood round, and I remember looking over and seeing like college coaches, like two or three college coaches, like watching. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. I go to the following match, and earlier I said I lost. I got second the week before to a top 20 kid. I had that same kid. I was like, all right, and I've lost. I've kind of had like a little rivalry with this kid. Like he's beaten me three times up to this point. So this is our fourth time wrestling, and every match has been like super close. And same thing, my coach would say, "Go make that money," and it gives me like chills every time I would say it. He would say it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go do it." And I remember like looking over to my coach. I got this like one like amazing takedown, and it pretty much like secured the match for me. And I end up winning. I look over and he's all hyped, freaking like getting excited. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I just beat this kid. He's a top 20 kid. Like I'll probably be in the rankings after this. Like I'm on top of the world. And I look over, I see the Maryland coaches watching that match. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Walk off the mat. I'm super excited. And the Maryland coaches come to me and was like, hey, we messed up. We're going to find some money for you. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so I finished the tournament. I ended up getting like fourth, which is great. I was in the top 20 rankings after that. I had the following weekend, I had another really tough tournament I did really good at. And just like I had a really good senior season, but it was all based off like that, like go make that money principle. And like he would say it even after I started getting offers, like that following week, the following 2 weeks, I was getting calls, which is like, wow, like I went from having zero offers to all these amazing schools contacting me. And I was just like on top of the world. It gets towards the end of the season, and I end up finishing two-time national prep all-American, a three-time state champ. And I won like OW at the state tournament too. It was awesome. I finished the year pretty happy. And my coaches at Maryland were trying to figure out if I'm going to go there or not because it's getting kind of close to my end of my senior year. People usually commit way earlier than that. But I kind of had this like grudge in my head where like it's like they didn't believe in me. Like, no, I don't want to do that. And the coach called my mom and he was like, I want Dom. Like, I know he messed up, but I do want him. I like the type of kid he is. I like how he wrestles on the mat. What do I got to do? And my mom told me, you got to call him and apologize and tell him that you messed up. So he called me and then he apologized and he's like, I really want you here. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm about to be a Terp. And so I basically committed there. And I remember coming here and it's been great ever since. My second year, I became captain. That's freaking amazing. I have definitely been continuously like proving myself here. And that was like the biggest thing going into Maryland was like they didn't believe in me. but I'm gonna make them believe in me. I'm gonna make them realize they messed up and make sure switching their decision about me is gonna be the best decision they ever made. And so that's kind of like my mindset ever since going here. But that's like basically the entire story of how I got to Maryland. I love that story.
I love it too. And there is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And my first question that comes to mind, just because like you said it first, because you're like your brothers wrestle as well, are you guys constantly just like going at it when you're home and just like wrestling all the time and your parents are like, knock it off?
Literally, my mom hates it. She's like, bring it downstairs, no wrestling. The funny thing is now, ever since I got to college, like whenever I get home, I'm like, I don't want to wrestle. Like I wrestle for basically for living now. Like I don't want to wrestle with you guys. And they're always trying to wrestle me. I'm like, dude, stop. I don't want to do it. Especially my little brother right now, because he's like just getting into it. So he's
Yep.
like kind of like showing me all these moves and stuff. And I'm just like, dude, no. He like pick up my leg. I'm just like hopping on one foot and he can't take me down. It's so funny. It's
Isn't
just
it ironic? I don't know if ironic's the right word, but like how you start doing something you love and then you do it so much that when you get a chance to like not do it, you're like, don't make me do this.
I agree. I agree 100%. It's because your at least your family and your friends, they see that side of you all the time, and so they're not a part of it. And when they do see you, like, oh, I have to do this with him. Like it's Dom. Like I have to go wrestle with him. No, let's just chill.
Like, there's more to me than just wrestling.
They're just wrestling.
So you fell in love with wrestling immediately. Were you kind of naturally good at it? Or was it like you were okay and then you really, because you loved it so much, you just kept working and that's how you put yourself in the position to go to prep school in high school?
I would say I'm pretty naturally good at wrestling and just good using my body. Like wrestlers are weird with their body, and I'm able to just, and maybe because I've just been doing it so long, and I'm just so comfortable doing it. But I don't think I'm the most like talented wrestler, like naturally, but I don't think I definitely have some athletic ability to me. I was always like back and forth between football and wrestling too. Like I wasn't always like wrestling. Like I was thinking about playing football in college for a long time, even to like a D3 level. Because when I was in football season, I was a football guy. When I was in wrestling season, I was a wrestling guy, even though I was better at wrestling. So I think it was a combination of yes, working, but having some level of just like natural ability. But one thing about like my club growing up is I was always like a little bit, I wasn't like a big guy, but like wrestlers are typically smaller. So there would be kids that were 2, 3 years older than me. Maybe I was like 10 and they were like 12, 13. It would be the same weight. So I in my head I might have not seen I was as good because I was getting my butt whooped by these kids that are a couple years older than me. And so I think a combination of I was always getting maybe beat up on it a little bit in the room because people were older than me, and then just like a combination of like me being naturally good at wrestling. I think it's like a big combination of all the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like personally, I feel like whenever you play with people who are or like compete against people who are better than you, it like you have two options. You're either forced to keep up because and then if you don't keep up, you're not gonna compete. And
Mm.
so it's just like you have it makes you play even if you're getting whooped all the time, like you naturally start to play at a higher caliber. And then when you finally go to play people who are like in your competition setting, like it's that much more like natural and flowing and like not so stress ridden because you're just like, I got this. I can play against these guys. I can play against these guys.
Yeah. You either adapt or die. Literally, that's how it is. That's like a big thing in the college room too. Like a lot of kids. This didn't happen with me because my circumstance was a little bit different because we were like in a big transition phase. The most kids when they come into a college room, they won't get a takedown in the first like 2 months. And imagine being like a top level recruit in high school and then come into a college room and not be able to even get a point scored like on anyone just because like the it's different level. It's completely different level than high school. And so a lot of people fall. And I've seen a lot of people quit college sports, not even just wrestling, just college sports in general, because of like how much different it actually is. They just can't handle it. It is a lot, especially with school. Like people don't realize, especially Maryland's a pretty good public school. And that combination, if you have like a pretty decently hard major, which most majors have pretty hard classes, and waking up at 6 a.m. to go to lift and then practicing in the afternoon, have classes all in between, then homework at night. It's a lot. It's a lot. So people will either adapt or die.
What do you think makes the people who adapt well? Like, what do you think makes them adapt? Like, do you think it's one set, like, skill or trait that they kind of have like developed over time, or do you like, what do you think that is?
I feel like, at least with me, I love my team. I love my coaches. I love my sport. I wouldn't be able to do it without that. It's it's very, very mentally draining, but it's kind of fun when you get to go into a room and everyone's so positive. They're your best friends. Like I consider all my teammates some of my best friends that I will be friends with for the rest of my life because we do the same thing together every single day. This hard, hard ass sport in these hard practices in these long nights studying. We do it all together. And so I think the biggest thing is like finding a team and a coaching staff that you just really, really connect with. I consider some of my coaches some of my best friends. I tell them everything. Like I can go to them stuff that's outside of wrestling. And also it's making me like the sport more. And I'm like obsessed with getting better at the sport. One for myself, my team, and my family. So I think it's a combination of that, like being absolutely in love with the sport, but also having a team and a coaching staff that's just like some of your best friends. It makes it easy, it makes it worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, if you're going through a miserable practice and then you're miserable with the people around you, it's just not. But if you enjoy the people around you and everyone's there and you know that like, okay, this practice is miserable, but it's like hard for a reason and everyone like understands that and so like we can push through together.
And a big thing that we talk about as a team is faith and having faith in what we're doing. Because there's some days that we do through like really light technique and it's not a very hard practice, but then there's days that's like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Like, why are we doing this? And it's like it's all for a purpose. So like you have to there's a strategy to it. You can't go hard balls to the wall every day, but you can't just lounge around and just do technique every day. So you have to have a combination. Or if we just had a hard leg day lift and then we have to do bike sprints. They're just like, oh, why do we? It's like you gotta have faith. You gotta trust the process. We have this one of these pillars. We have four pillars on the wall. And the first one is faith, and it says trust the process. And that's the biggest thing. It's like being able to trust what the coaches are saying. If they want me to start doing a certain takedown, even though it maybe not be my number one takedown in my head, they're like, I see you doing that. I see your style. You need like, I want you to start doing that. Okay, I got you. I'll do that. So that's a big, big thing. And also it comes back to I'm being so close with my team and my coaches. I can trust them because they are some of my best friends. So it makes it easy. It makes me want to trust them, put my full faith in them. Like, okay, they know what they're doing. My my coaches are dope. They're multiple time college All-Americans. They've been coaching for years. They know what they're doing. So I'm not the one that experienced they are. So I got to listen to them.
I love that you are aware enough, I guess, to be like, hey, like I don't know everything. Like they're the coach for a reason. And so
Mhm.
it's like sometimes, especially, I mean, I've been there where like a coach tells me something, I'm just like, that is not like, why are you saying that to me? And then I'll like after practice or I'm like, okay, like you clearly know what you're saying and I'm just being emotional and just like I gotta get over it. I want to backtrack a little bit to high school Dom, and it kind of ties in that faith and trust the process. Was there ever points during high school, and I mean, you mentioned it during your senior year, where you kept losing? Did you doubt yourself? Did you kind of second guess, like, do I act like, am I good enough to play in college? And how did that wear on you mentally?
So the funny thing is, growing up, it was like a no-brainer. I was like, I'm playing a Division 1 sport. Like it was something like it already happened in my head, and not in a way that like I'm manifesting it. It's just like it actually like I'm that's a normal thing for me. The high school I went to was called McDonough, and everyone everyone played a sport. Everyone was good at it. Our lacrosse team, girls, were undefeated for like 9 years in a row, #1 in the country. My senior year, our girls soccer team won. Our lacrosse team for guys is always top 10. Like our teams are just so good. So going into high school, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna wrestle Division 1. There's no question. And then I got to my senior year and I was like, I have no offers. I have zero offers. When that transition period, I forget it's junior or sophomore year, where coaches are allowed to start contacting kids out. So I lived in a dorm. I like McDonough was like 600 kids in the upper school, and there's like 60, I think, that lived in dorms. It was like optional boarding, and I lived like 45 minutes away, so I did that. I remember that midnight there was these five-star football players in my dorm getting calls in my grade, and I'm like, damn, dude, that's like I'm happy for you. I'm so happy for you, but it kind of sucks. It's like, wow, I'm not really getting any offers. I'm not getting any calls, like not even an email. It's like, wow, that's sucks. And so towards like the end of my high school career, I really started to doubt myself like I never had before, just because I was so set on like it's gonna happen. Like no matter what, I'm gonna go somewhere to Division 1. And I feel like the biggest thing is having that like coaching staff to like kind of remind me like you are good enough. You just gotta go. You gotta go prove it. You gotta go show them. So I think that's probably like the the only time in my life where I was like doubting myself, but then having that like coaching staff, and it's one very specific coach, Coach Edward Holland. He was like an assistant coach. I would talk to. I actually still talk to him all the time. I call him like once a week. He was the one that like kept reminding me, like it's okay, it's gonna happen. You just gotta prove yourself.
And I think, I mean, it just kind of goes to show like you kept doing that and you kept proving yourself. And it really just takes like one moment. You just had one match and literally everything changed, which sounds almost movie-esque, where it's just like, I don't know if romanticized is the right word, but like you're in your head and you're like, all it takes is that one moment, but it's true. All it takes is that one thing that can like spark the next part of your path and journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I like I said, I love telling that story just because it feels like that. It feels like that like movie type of story where it's like, oh, he didn't get it, he just didn't get it, and then he proved himself in that one moment. It's like I still think back to like that one moment, that one match. Like if I didn't give it my all that one moment, like where would my life be right now? Maybe I wouldn't have any offers. Maybe I wouldn't even be in college. It's like completely shifted my life, which I'm just super grateful for.
You mentioned that kind of when you weren't getting offers, and then finally when Maryland was like, hey, we messed up, we actually want you, and then you're kind of like proving to them, like, oh yeah, not only do you want me, like, you need me now, like in that
Mhm.
kind of sense, like trying to prove that like they made the right decision. Has that chip on your shoulder kind of melted away a little bit, or are you still trying to like prove yourself to like the school, the teammate, your coaches? Like how do you navigate like proving others wrong and also like the whole like proving to yourself that like, hey, like I've done all this work and I've earned the right to be here?
So the biggest thing is so wrestling is partial scholarship. So you can get like 50%, 25%, 75%. You don't have to get 100% like football or basketball. And so I'm not on 100%. I'm on a pretty good amount, but there's still like room to grow. And so I think that aspect of it is, and I actually have increased my scholarship because I was a national qualifier, not this past year, but the year before. And so my coach increased my scholarship because of that reason. And so there's always things I can do to do that. And like I said, I'm a money guy. I love money. And so I think that aspect has kept me motivated. And that's not like the only reason. Obviously, I have just goals in wrestling besides the money, but that aspect to it is like I can always earn more. I can always be doing more. I can always prove myself more. I'm not on 100%. So what can I do to prove them that I should be?
What? I mean, I'm curious. Why are you such a money guy?
I don't. It's probably my dad. My dad always like growing up, like he used to tell me he used to take like a. He wasn't like the wealthiest. He wasn't poor, but he wasn't like the wealthy. He couldn't just walk up to his mom and be like, "Hey, can I get $20 to go buy this?" Like he earned a lot of his money on his own, bought a lot of his own things, and he told me he used to take um like a shopping cart and go around and grab like cans and like recycle, like when you could really make money off of doing that. And he would just like fill up this car and then he would go to the place and like he would get money in exchange. Like he has always just been like a hustler. And so growing up, every time it snowed, I was like, I don't really care about making a snowman. I'm gonna go shovel some driveways. I'm gonna make some money. And so like any like little thing that I wanted to buy, I had to make the money for it. I mean, I didn't grow up poor at all. Like I grew up well off, but my parents wouldn't just give me money. Like we lived in a nice house. I had a pool in the backyard, but if I wanted to get a video game, they're like, well, go shovel some snow or go mow some grass, go pull some weeds. So like my whole life, me and my older brother, we have always been like that. And I was a big shoe guy growing up. And so $200 shoes, I gotta go mow like 5 lawns to go get these shoes. And so I guess that just has carried on throughout my life. And even I've always been a math guy. I believe you're either an English reading person or a math person. I don't think you can be both. That's rare. I think you're either one or the other. And I'm not a reading person. I'm a math person. So I've always been pretty decent at math growing up. And so money, math, I feel like it's all just like it all connects. And so that's why I became the econ major because I find that stuff pretty interesting.
I like that. That's
Mhm.
I it's funny to hear all the like the intricacies of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so what does a typical day in the life of Dom look like? Are you finals are done, right? Are you done with school?
Yeah,
Like,
thank God.
so give me like a day when you were in school, and then give me a day now that you are done school for until when it's September, August.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. I'm doing a summer class starting in July. So I won't be off school for too much longer, but I'll have like most of June off. But I'll do like a day in life like in season because in season out of season is a little bit different. Our season's like 5 months long, so it's pretty deep.
That's long.
Yeah. So let's say I have competition the upcoming Friday and it's Monday. Well, I'll wake up around 5:45, 6 o'clock. I usually try to have like peanut butter toast with banana or something like that in the morning before practice. I weigh myself usually before that too, because I'm always constantly figuring out what my weight is, the fluctuations and that sort of stuff. Then I head to practice, which practice is from around 7:15 to close to 9ish. This semester, let's say on Monday, I would have two classes. My first class would be at 10 and 10 to 10:50. And then my second class would be 11 to 12:15. So two classes in between. And then I would go over to the Xfinity Center where we had practice and we would have the lift that afternoon. So at 1 o'clock, I would do PT before lift. Then I would go in the hot tub. We have this like hot tub and it's like it's a nice warm up. I go in there for like 5 minutes. Then we go in the lift. round two. Obviously, we have to take the BPM pre-workout, the flight. You have to. You
You
have to.
you gotta get the face tingles going.
You have to. Also, like in between that like 12 o'clock period, I have like some sort of lunch. Most of the time in season, it would be like rice. Uh, I take these like packets of tuna, like 3 packets of tuna, and then some spinach, a little bit of hot sauce. So I'll have that for lunch. And then my pre-workout, PT, that whole thing. Then I go to lift from 2 to 3. If we're sprinting that day, it'll be from till 3:15. After that, um, there's this one lot that's like I would drive to practice, or and that's only like where I could have my car because that's the only lot I like paid for. But after 4 o'clock, all the lots are open. So I would drive to over to study hall, and so around 4 o'clock, I'd park, go to study hall, knock out all my homework. Hopefully, I'm done by like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I would head back. And just depending on like my weight, if my weight's good, then I'll probably just chill out for the rest of the night, maybe play some video games or just hang out with some of my buddies. Or if my weight's a little heavy, I'll probably end up heading to the treadmill and then I would run like 3 or 4 miles, like an easy pace with some sweatpants on. Then I try to go to bed in season around like 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's basically the day. Obviously, I didn't the dinner. It's basically the same thing. It's some sort of like protein, rice, and spinach, or like something in that sort of sense. It's usually pretty around the same thing. But that's basically like a pretty jam-packed day of mine if we have lift and practice in the afternoon.
Yeah, that is a pretty busy schedule, but I mean, like, that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for like a D1 athlete, like or even any athlete in general. It doesn't even have to be Division 1. Like that's just how it is. Like you work out in the morning, you do your things during the day, and you probably work out again in the afternoon, get some food in you, and then you relax and go to bed. But now it's a little bit different just because like I'm not in classes anymore. I have a lot more downtime. Um Today's like an off day. I'm actually competing this weekend. So I've been cutting weight all week. So like yesterday, for example, I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6:45, because our practices are a little bit later. They sleep in because we don't have classes, so there's not like a time restraint. So I practice at 8. Practice was only an hour long. It was like individuals. So individuals are like one-on-one with the coaches. So me and a partner and then a coach. It's only 3 of us. Instead of like a whole team practice. I did that. I went back to my house, got some food. I'm a big coffee guy, so I usually stop at like Starbucks or something on the way home. And I just played video games until lift in the afternoon, which was at 2. And after that, I went straight to LA Fitness to get a run in just because I am cutting weight this week and my weight has been a little bit heavy since I haven't weighed in a couple months. And then I went back and ate some food, just relaxed until I went to bed. So it's definitely more relaxed. I'm not like just like doing next thing, the next thing, the next thing. I just have a lot more downtime to do what I want to do.
I think that's important to highlight because, like, sometimes kids will get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they have to do, like, in a day, but, like, it's not every single day for, like, of the entire year. Like, it kind of comes in waves where, like, you'll have a busy season and then you have, like, a calmer season where you're still working, but there's more
Mm.
relaxation time and free time to kind of just chill and do what you want.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And then out of season, I have a job. I'm a bar back and a bouncer at a at a local bar. So that's fun. So I like Friday night, Saturday night, if I don't have my biggest thing is if I don't have practice the next morning. If I practice the next morning, I gotta go to bed. Like 11 o'clock at the latest. Because I get grumpy in the morning if I don't get enough sleep. But I work at a bar and sometimes we stay up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning
Mhm.
because when everyone leaves, I still have to stay and clean up and that whole thing. But it's a good gig and I only work when I'm not competing or when I'm out of season. So this week's a little different because there's one tournament we're doing outside of season. But besides that, I'll be working Friday, Saturday. And every once in a while, we have Wednesday mornings off. So some Tuesdays I'll be working.
There's so much more that I'm now like intrigued about with like you and your wrestling, but we are kind of coming up on time.
Hmm.
The one thing though that I really want to like kind of leave off on is your cutting. Have you ever had like an issue with your relationship with food?
Oh, for sure. I'm personally, I have had a great relationship with food, but then there are time periods where it sucks and it has affected me throughout my life. I remember cutting weight when I was in like fifth grade, and I don't recommend this to everyone. It's not should not do that. If you're wrestling and you're young and you're under eighth grade, or even if you're like a top level like high school kid, I wouldn't cut weight until like ninth, 10th grade at the earliest, just because let your body develop, wrestle your own natural way. You don't really need to do that. And if you are cutting weight, maybe make it like 1 or 2 pounds. Don't make it like 18, like I'm doing this past 2 weeks. I was doing 18.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of water weight. And so
Yeah.
it has affected my relationship with food a little bit. But when I'm outside of season, I'm not cutting weight at all. My relationship with food is great because I'm really good at eating. I eat a lot. Like I eat a lot of food, but I'm really good at making sure I'm eating a lot of the good foods. So I feel just so much better. But sometimes in season, my diet like lacks in a way where I'll weigh in, I'll compete, and then I won't compete for another week. And I'll binge eat that night just because it's like, oh my God, haven't been able to eat for or as much. You always have to eat when you're cutting. People don't realize that. Some people are like, oh, I can't anything at all because weight cutting for wrestling and weight cutting for like bodybuilding is two completely different things.
Mhm.
I'm I have to cut weight and then compete and wrestle against someone else, and so my energy levels really really matter. So when I cut weight, I have to spike back up as soon as I weigh in. So in season, sometimes it lacks, but out of season, it hasn't affected me as much, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it totally does. And I mean, I'm just gonna have to have you on again so we can like dive more into it and just more of the ins and out of wrestling because I'm wicked interested.
I'm a talker, so yeah.
Dom, why don't you kind of let everyone know where they can find you on socials and things like that?
Okay, Instagram and TikTok is Dom Solis official, and then my YouTube is just Dom Solis.
Perfect. I will put that in the description. And Dom, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. And I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. The next time I want to talk a little bit more about you and get to know you a little bit better too.
I love that. Everyone else, thank you guys for listening. Make sure to do the whole 5-star review, comment, all that jazz, share with a friend, and talk to you guys in the next one.